had a number of jobs before I became an empathy coach and educator. I worked at a tattoo shop, I was a high school English teacher, I managed a pizza restaurant. Across all of these jobs, I've formed relationships with really diverse people. I'd find myself on a street corner at 2 a.m., learning to make jewelry from one of the regulars at the pizza shop, or at the World on Wheels, roller skating with my favorite students. I suspected the quality of these relationships made me better at my jobs, so I went back to school to research this idea. I learned that a critical influence on how we work across sectors is a phenomenon our bodies are biologically equipped for: empathy. I investigated how scientists study empathy and discovered that it has quantifiable outcomes across a broad range of disciplines. Designers and engineers use empathy in every design thinking framework. The layout of your car, the way your phone is designed, these all began with a formal empathizing process. Negotiators use empathy to resolve conflicts between world superpowers and rival gangs. The medical profession implements formal empathy training because it improves patient outcomes and reduces malpractice claims. We saw examples of empathy when medical professionals put their faces on badges at the beginning of the pandemic to help them connect with COVID patients. I use empathy to help organizations improve culture and outcomes. But something has recently shifted. I started getting calls about divisiveness and fractured relationships, like the university leadership class that had different ideas about race and racism, but was unwilling to engage about their experiences. Or my friend who had different political ideas than her dad, and as a result, it was driving their previously close relationship apart. People were now calling me to get my help to use empathy to bridge divides. Now, empathy isn't agreement. It can't make your Aunt Kathy vote for your favorite presidential candidate. But empathy can lead to an understanding that opens doors divisiveness closed. The challenge is, to get to empathy, we have to be willing to let go of judgment. And that isn't easy. We enter conversations with an agenda. This shuts down our empathetic biology. In order to get to real empathy, we have to be willing to listen and connect. Empathy has been defined in a lot of different ways, but the ways that best capture all the functions and rewards of our physiology include a focused attention on the other person without distractions or judgment, an accurate interpretation of that person's perspectives and emotions, and a reciprocated emotional response. This compels the physiological state of empathy and makes it feel really good. We have facial muscles that engage and send a message to our brain, neurobiology, chemical reactions, even memory making, all networks of processes that all happen and compel this process of empathy. Now, whether you make a conscious decision to empathize or just get caught up in the moment, empathy begins with present body awareness. We connect without distraction or judgment, and this begins an understanding of the other person's emotional state. We understand emotional states through mimicry of facial expressions that are revealed within the fraction of a second. Our facial muscles imperceptibly and unconsciously engage in the same places as the facial muscles of the people with whom we're empathizing. And this sends a message to our brain about the feeling that they're feeling. So if the corners of your mouth get tight and your brow furrows, I'm going to do the same thing. And if your shoulders slump and you turn away, I'll do the same thing. Anything that stands in the way of my mimicry of your body language or your facial expression, whether it's a distraction or the challenges of virtual conferencing technology or elective procedures that change the way our facial muscles engage, this can impede our empathetic connection. Mimicry of your voice, body language, facial expression all allows me to start to share the feeling that you have. Mirror neurons are another part of our empathetic circuitry. Anything you communicate lights up as a lesser shade in my brain as if I was experiencing it too. So if you are in pain, my mirror neurons engage in the same places as if I were in pain. When I hear the sound of a strong emotion or vocal inflection, my mirror neurons engage in the place as if I was experiencing the source of that sound. Mirror neurons are another way that we experience emotion through mimicked emotional response. Next come the chemical reactions that compel us to participate in empathy. Dopamine and serotonin are neurotransmitters that are released in our brain, and they influence engagement and emotion and energy. Dopamine engages our pleasure center, and serotonin gives us a sense of well-being. Oxytocin, which is the connectedness hormone, is released into our bloodstream. And we get this sense of pleasure, a flush of euphoria. This may engage our parasympathetic nervous system, and this incites logic and helps us to avoid any sort of biased thinking. It's going to impede our fight or flight response to questions or comments, make us less defensive, make us more willing to trust. This is going to create a somatic tag in our medial prefrontal cortex, which just means that we're going to have a positive memory associated with this entire experience. So moving forward, we'll remember this as a positive emotional shared memory. Psychologically, we're building an in-group of us. This creates pathways for easier future synchronicity, even if we were bonding over a negative emotion or experience. Now, you've probably experienced more impactful examples of empathy than any I can describe for you. A colleague with entirely different life view who you learned from, not because you agreed, but because you could respect someone with whom you disagreed. An unexpected fondness you felt for someone who you met briefly and you just clicked. A stranger in need, someone you met just once. It's sometimes easier to move to empathy with the people we know the least about, when there's no history. Empathy has the power to bring people together in a lot of different spaces, but it's across divisiveness that feels most urgent right now. This is not to suggest that you can empathize with everyone all the time, but there is tremendous possibility and power in the times that you do. The most powerful examples of empathy I have seen are when two people of irreconcilable ideas have formed deep affection and respect for one another in spite of those ideas. We have the physiology we need to empathize, and it feels so good because it's critical to human survival. We have the power to bridge divides, and it is as much a part of our biology as laughter. We're happier, healthier, more optimistic, more effective when we use empathy to connect with people who are different from us. If we reject the possibility for connection across divides, we let go of the complete capacity of our physiology and the breadth of our humanity. In a time of ever-growing divides, empathy is the only bridge.